New World has brought native controller support to Season 5, and I have to say, as a mouse and keyboard player, I was very impressed with the functionality of the controller in-game, both UI and combat. As always, before we fully get into today's video, I do just want to say if this video helps you out, or if you just like it, please drop it a like, it really helps me out a lot. And if you want to see more content like this, including more build videos, loot videos, info videos, and stuff like that, definitely subscribe to the channel so you know when those videos go live. I also stream throughout the week over on Twitch as well as YouTube, so definitely stop by a stream, say hello, lurk, anything like that, we would love to have you. But let's get into today's video. To get us started today, let's first talk about why they added the native controller support to New World. Well, many of us know that the likelihood of us getting a console release is fairly certain at this point, but we will find out in the June update as to if we actually are going to get that console release, but a lot of things are pointing towards that. So that was a very, very good reason for them in the first place to even push a native controller support for the game. On top of that, there are actually quite a few players out there as well, and quite a few gamers in general, that they actually need a controller to play, whether it's a disability or anything like that. It's just nice to be able to open up our game to allow any and all players to be able to play it, enjoy it, and just have a much easier time actually playing the game. Now, I do know prior to the controller support, you were able to use a controller, but from my understanding from talking to some people, it was a lot of work to actually get everything mapped out and set up correctly. So having this native controller support is just so much better because you can kind of just hop in and just start playing, tweak some of the settings to make it work for you. But that is really, really nice to just open up the game to more players who might not have been able to play very easily in the past. On top of that, there are going to be some players who just prefer controller as well, which most of us, I would say, currently prefer mouse and keyboard. But there are still some players out there who maybe are so used to console, just got their first PC and want to play the game, and having that controller option is really, really nice and just making it a lot smoother of an experience for those types of players. Next, I would like to talk about the things that I actually really liked about playing on controller, even though I am a mouse and keyboard player. The first thing being that the movement felt very natural. The game just felt like it was really designed to be played on controller almost, and it just felt really, really good. Again, I'm not a controller player typically, but the movement felt as if I were playing like a console game or something like that. So I really did appreciate the fact that the movement feels good. The new Slayer script and stuff obviously is a little bit buggy at times, but overall, with the free movement and stuff, it felt really, really good to play. The next thing being the UI navigation, it did feel pretty good. It kind of locks on when you're going through the map. It'll kind of like hover over and pull your cursor on top of like a landmark. So let's say you're trying to go to like a shrine or something like that. You don't have to be exact. It'll actually kind of just help assist pulling it on there. I will say though, there are a couple things like the trading posts where I wish that we could actually navigate using the D-pad on the controller, but that's something that hopefully they can add in the future. Just kind of a little something that makes it a little bit easier for us to actually like navigate through some of those menus that have just a lot of items. And I do understand that within like the map and stuff, the D-pad is used for some other things. So maybe they could remap some of those buttons in order to allow us to use that D-pad to move around. But again, that's something that I have a preference on. Some of you may actually just like the cursor the way it is. But hopefully they can kind of give that option to be able to use the D-pad or just kind of use the joysticks to navigate through some of the UI. The next thing that I really, really did actually enjoy was the PvE content. The PvE content with controller was very chill. It was very relaxed. It has the target lock system, so you can actually click in the stick and it'll lock onto your target. So like farming rabbits or really farming any type of ads or combat, anything like that for PvE, it's really nice because it'll lock on and then you don't have to necessarily aim. You can just kind of have a chill time running around. But do keep in mind with the target lock system, it's not going to lock on to like the head. So if you're trying to get like max damage with headshots and stuff, you're still kind of better off trying to just aim yourself. But the target lock is actually really, really nice, and you can actually change to different targets and stuff as well. So it made farming really, really chill for me, and I actually really, really did enjoy it. With the PvP side of things, I, again, don't have the best mechanical skills, so for PvP, for me, it was a little bit tougher. It did feel good for like melee and stuff. I had to change a couple settings, which we'll get into later. But for the most part, I really did enjoy the combat feel of it. I just am not very good. So those who actually play on controller a lot or are more used to it will probably have just a fine time playing with it. There is a little bit of aim assist and stuff like that as well. So for those who do actually prefer controller and play a lot of controller games, I think they'll have just a perfect time playing this. I don't think they'll have any issues compared to myself, which just I mechanically am not all there with it. So hopefully those who actually do enjoy controller like it as much as I did and just can do a bit better than I did when I tried it. The last thing that I really actually enjoyed, and this is connected to the PvE side of things, was fishing. I do not enjoy fishing in New World typically, but I will say using a controller made fishing much better for me. So I think when I work on my fishing skill, that is what I'm going to end up using is a controller. I'll just hook it up, do my fishing, and then when I'm done, switch back to mouse and keyboard if I'm going to go do other things. But I will say for PvE stuff in general, I actually really did enjoy it, and I could see myself running controller actually from time to time for PvE stuff in the future. Now that I talked a little bit about what I liked about the controller, let's talk a little bit about what I would like to see changed or fixed based on my personal experience, and definitely let me know down in the comments if you've had a different experience or things that you think need to be changed. But to get us started, I'm just going to go kind of back to what I had previously said with the navigation of the UI stuff, and that is the D-pad navigation. I think it would be really nice to be able to navigate certain things such as the trading post with the D-pad. Just makes it a little bit easier for someone like myself. I do like that. I know that might be more of a preference thing, but I think it is something that having that option to do one or the other would be really good. The next thing I would like to talk about is the Canon Blast. Canon Blast, I noticed, which I don't normally use that specific heart rune, and this is probably a little minor thing, but Canon Blast, when I would trigger it, it would not give me the ADS sensitivity or anything like that, and so all of a sudden it would just kind of like whip my camera around. I really didn't like that. It felt really difficult to aim it, so I think Canon Blast is one specific heart rune that needs to be looked at. If there's any other ones that you think with controller need to be looked at as well, definitely let me know or put it down in the comments. The next thing would be the transferring of locked gear. It was not working for me. I was actually unable to transfer any locked armor. If I unlocked it, then it would allow me to transfer it. But when it was locked, I believe it's right stick. If you click it in, you should be able to just transfer an item quickly. And that was not actually working for me. So that's something that definitely needs to get fixed, because being able to transfer that locked any of the locked items would be really nice to have. It's a little bit of a quality of life thing, but pretty major when it comes to transferring a lot of loot around. The next thing would be the aim assist. To me, it felt slightly inconsistent. It didn't feel overtuned necessarily, but there were times where it felt a little snappy, and then other times where I felt like it wasn't really doing anything for me. So I don't know. I think someone who plays controller a lot more probably can get a better feel for it. So let me know down in the comments on that as well. Do you find that the aim assist is very consistent for you? From your experience, what do you like or dislike about the aim assist? It didn't feel overtuned by any means. There were just times where it felt like almost a little too snappy, just at times, but it didn't feel like way overtuned or anything like that. It just didn't feel consistent. That's kind of the best way that I can phrase it, is the consistency of the aim assist just didn't feel like it was all there for me. The last thing that I really think should be changed or fixed, and I think that they'll eventually do this, is just being able to change a lot of the controls. Unless I was just completely oblivious and missing it, it didn't seem like I could actually remap any of the controls. And that's something where maybe they just want to keep them locked right now to get a really good feel for it, and to kind of see like what can we do with this. Let's first start with just like a default setting, and then from there we can then kind of upgrade it or change it, and then see kind of just how it is. But maybe they just wanted to keep it locked, or maybe I was just oblivious. If I was oblivious and you actually can change the controls, please let me know down in the comments, because I missed it if it actually was there, or maybe it just wasn't overly intuitive. But that is something that I would really like to be able to change some of the controls, because there were a couple times where it's just like I, for the life of me, kept pressing the wrong button, even though like I knew what the button was, but I just wanted to change some of that around to make it a little bit smoother for myself. So those are kind of the main things that I think need to be changed or fixed. But I know that there are some other bugs and other issues because I've only really tried the controller for one full day of stream. So let me know down in the comments for sure if there are other things that you're noticing with the controller support, stuff that we can definitely take a look at. And on top of that, if there are some issues that you're finding, please put them in the New World Discord and let them know what some of these bugs are or some of the issues. They may not be able to fix some of them right away. But this is the first push for this controller support, so we need to be a little bit patient, but overall, I think it was a really good first push, and then they just kind of need to start tweaking and making it better over time. And the last thing that we are going to be talking about today with the controller support are the couple of settings that I'm going to suggest changing or taking a look at for yourself. So the first thing being the sensitivities, especially with the ADS or aim down sight sensitivities. Now, when I plugged in my controller and started looking at that for the first time, it was extremely low. So I had to crank mine up quite a bit for pretty much all the sensitivities in the game. But the really cool thing is you can actually adjust, and especially for ADS, you can actually adjust the vertical and horizontal sensitivities. So you can actually decide how fast you can kind of go left to right or up and down. So what I did is I left my vertical settings a little bit lower. So then essentially once I was at head height, or like when I'm running around just like not ADSing at all, I can kind of make sure that my reticle is going to be near head height. And then once I zoom in and aim down sight, then all of a sudden my reticle's already there and I can just make really minor adjustments up or down. But then with my horizontal being faster, I can actually still track people a lot easier. So that's something that play around with sensitivities. Everyone's going to have kind of different preferences. I sometimes will like my sensitivities a little bit slower in general, but it just kind of depends on your preference and what you find most useful to you. The next and last thing is going to be very, very important if you are a melee character. And I'm going to walk you through how to actually get to this specific setting. The first thing you will do is go to settings, game, gameplay, and then camera direction for melee attacks being on. It'll default off. And what that does is, let's say you're running around, you're in a clump. Let's say you're a sword and shield especially, and you are fighting someone in front of you, your team's behind you, you're trying to back up, and when you back up, you hit down on the left stick, and let's say you want to block. Well, when you hit block, it is then going to block towards your team, not the enemy, because it's blocking in the direction of your character, in the direction that you are trying to move, as opposed to the direction of the camera. So you do want to make sure that you turn that setting on, because otherwise you will not be able to block and move backwards at the same time. It's really, really funky, and I had no idea it was a setting. We had to talk about it in chat and figure out which setting it was, but we did figure it out. It is that exact camera direction for melee attacks. So make sure that is on. So that way, when you are fighting, and especially again, when you are a sword and shield or a flail and shield, and you need to hold that shield, you are then able to hold the shield, hold down on that left stick, and you won't turn around. Like, you'll still be blocking the enemy. You won't turn your back like I did and die over and over and over and over and over. So that is one setting that, especially if you are melee, make sure that you turn that on, not off, and you will notice a world of difference as far as, especially in OPR, or even when you're tanking in like a dungeon or something, it'll be so much better. So make sure that setting is set to on, and you will be good to go for melee. I am so happy with the first push for controller support in the game, and very, very excited to see those who maybe prefer to play on controller, or in the future, maybe even some console players, to start playing the game and to get a feel for it. Because even though I am not the most mechanically sound on controller, those who are probably will get even more value out of it. But I myself really did enjoy it. It felt very natural to play with it, and I am very excited to see what the future holds. But that is going to do it for today's video, so until next time, I'll see you guys later.